Hello photographers. Choosing the right ISO, aperture, and shutter speed for sports and action is super important, but there are a bunch of other camera settings that can make a huge difference to your sports photography. Today I'm going to tell you what those settings are, and to make it easier for you to implement these settings in the field, I've created a free sports photography guide for you. Now let's get to it. First thing you want to do is change your drive mode to burst mode. The default drive mode on your camera is single shot mode, where you press the shutter button and the camera will take one single photo. With burst mode, when you press the shutter button, the camera continuously takes photos until you release the button. Now this is great for action because it allows you to take a sequence of photos of the action as it's happening, making it much more likely that you'll get the keeper shot you were looking for. How you change your drive mode varies, but you can typically access it through one of your directional pad buttons or through your camera's quick menu. The second setting you want to change is your focus mode, and you want to set it to continuous focus. The default focus mode is one shot, where the camera locks focus and keeps it locked until you release the button or take a photo. With continuous focus, as long as you hold your shutter button halfway down, the camera will track and adjust focus as your subject moves through the scene. Continuous focus was literally made for sports and action photography, but even though it was made for sports and action, keep in mind that it's not perfect. Continuous focus makes it much more likely that you'll get an in-focus shot, but there will be shots where your camera will miss, and that's just the way it is. And just with the drive mode, how you change your focus mode will vary, but it's also typically accessible by one of the directional pad buttons and in your camera's quick menu. The third setting is image stabilization, which you might want to turn on if you pan your camera. With sports photography, image stabilization is typically not helpful, but there are now image stabilization options to help you get sharper photos when you pan the camera to follow your subject. This is a specific use case which helps to stabilize for the panning motion of the camera. So if you tend to pan when you shoot your sports in action, then image stabilization could be helpful to you, but it varies depending on your camera or your lens. So I've included the stabilization modes that help with panning for the major manufacturers in my free guide. The fourth thing you want to do is activate all of your focus points. When using continuous focus, the camera needs all of the focus points it can get to track and maintain focus on your subject. So when shooting sports, make sure to reactivate your full focus point grid. And you should also check your manual, because some cameras have special focus point zones specifically for sports and action. Not every camera has the option, but if you do have it, it's worth using because it optimizes the focus system for accuracy while photographing moving subjects. And finally, you need to decide if you want to capture in RAW or JPEG. The advantage of RAW is that you have the extra editing latitude that all of the RAW data gives you, but shooting in RAW slows the camera's burst mode down. When you shoot in burst mode, the camera is capturing photo after photo, and it has to store those photos in the camera's internal memory until it can transfer them to the memory card. RAW photos are much larger than JPEGs, and as a result, your camera's memory can't hold nearly as many RAW files as it can JPEGs. This is a problem because when the memory is full, the camera can't take any more photos, and if the camera stops shooting, you could miss your shot. For instance, the Pentax K3 can hold 23 RAW files in its internal memory, but it can hold 60 JPEGs, which is more than twice as many RAW files. So if you're shooting sports and capturing in RAW with the K3, after 23 photos, the camera is going to stop taking photos. And if there's still action that you want to capture, you're going to miss it while you wait for the camera's memory to clear. But if you were shooting in JPEG mode, you'd get 60 photos before it stopped, making it much more likely that you'd capture the action that you wanted to get. Now, some photographers will tell you that you have to shoot in RAW whether or not you're shooting sports, and others will tell you that because you're shooting sports, you should shoot in JPEG. I'm going to tell you that you have to consider the benefits of each and decide for yourself if you want to shoot in RAW or JPEG. If you want that RAW editing capability, then shoot it in RAW. If you want as much burst ability as possible, then shoot it in JPEG. If you do choose to shoot in JPEG, it will be critical to make sure your exposure and white balance is just right, because you won't have as much latitude with the photos when you sit down to edit them. With all of these settings locked in, you and your camera will be ready to capture the action. And to make sure you've got everything dialed in just right, you can click this link right here to download my free sports photography guide. Now, if you have any questions about sports photography or photography in general, let me know in the comments. And then do me a favor, would you like this video and subscribe to my channel? If you really like this video, share it with your friends. But the most important thing you need to do is get out there and take some damn photos. I'll see you guys next week. The default focus mode is one shot, where the camera locks focus and keeps, oh geez.